What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today's video is going to be a bit of a quicker one. This is going to be another product video. I get these every now and again, which is kind of cool that people trust me enough or like me enough to have me review some of their products. And being that I've been doing a lot more welding lately than I have in car building, at least for myself, BestArc reached out to us, asked me to review one of their MIG welders. I don't do a ton of MIG welding nowadays, but who's going to say no to a free MIG welder? So this is their MIG 145 model. I don't know enough about it. I do know that it is a 110 unit, so this is something you can use at home in your home garage. So for you, budget guys, I believe this welder is somewhere in the $200 range, $220. I will have a link to it in the pinned top comment, and it's going to be great for somebody, assuming it welds good. It's going to be great for you hobbyists at home doing stuff on your car, patching up exhaust, making little brackets and stuff. So I don't have a whole lot to say about it. We're just going to jump right into it. So this welder actually showed up a couple weeks ago. We've just been busy here. And it's ironic that they sent me a new MIG welder right after I bought my Hobart a couple weeks ago, working on that roll cage on the Civic Type R track car. All right. I also want to mention before we get into anything, a lot of these welders, basically any of your cheaper welders, Harbor Freights, BestArc, they all ship with flux core wire, which is fine and dandy if you're working out trying to build a gate in your backyard or something. But for anybody that's actually trying to learn how to weld, or if you want to see the capabilities of these cheaper machines, go do yourself a favor, get yourself some solid wire. This is ER76. Or 70S6, I'm sorry. So go to any welding supply store, they'll be able to hook you up, just tell them what you're looking for. But the Flux Wire, you're just gonna have too hard of a time getting the machine set up to really learn on and be comfortable with. So just a heads up. Is that really all that's in the box? Yeah. Oh no, there's something else in there. Maybe. Oh. Full separate little box, I didn't even see that. It's actually a really small unit. Just like a little briefcase, so I kind of like that. Let's see what's in this flap. Oh, okay, so that's how you load it in. So I'm gonna guess this has the ground clamp and the regulator and stuff. Yeah, so like I said, they always ship these things with flux cord wire. Again, flux is fine if you're doing outside stuff, but assuming you're buying this welder to learn on or just something cheap, but for you guys learning, again, don't run flux, run the solid wire. Only difference is with solid wire, you do need a bottle of mixed gas, so go get yourself a bottle of that. Got our instruction manual in here, get the machine set up, kind of goes over it. MIG welders are usually pretty much all the same, especially the lower end ones that are, actually no, this one's actually digital, I think, but there's really only two settings, wire heat or wire speed and heat, so don't have too much to mess with. This also doubles as a stick welder, so they have this is called a stinger, so I don't have any stick rod with me, so I can't say, at least in this video, if that aspect of it's going to work, but I'm sure it does. All you need is some electricity. They do send you, well, the ground clamp, I guess. A little bit on the thinner side. Usually these ones that have the brass wire in here, these usually tend to fill a little bit faster than the ones that got the big old thick old wires. And but again, that's usually on higher voltage machines. This one, again, being the small guy. They do have extra contact tips for you guys that like to burn these things out from getting too close. And they also have the guide, or the wheel for the wire. And they give you a little tool just to change your tips. Otherwise, you can just go get yourself some welding pliers, and that'll work just fine. So let's go ahead, just get this thing set up. Oh, so there's two drive wheels. There's already one on the machine, and then there's this one. So we may have to actually read the instructions for that, because normally these things are labeled on the wheel. These ones are not. Unless it goes in millimeters or something. Opened up the wire. I bought 030, that's the size that I normally use, but it also has the other dimension right here, which I believe would be, standard or whatever. So 0.8, which is what we're looking for on the drive wheel. So one of these is labeled 0.8. So get yourself some dikes, MIG pliers, that's what these are, and then go ahead and start feeding your wire in. A lot of people make the mistake of cutting after where they're holding or holding it by the end. Don't do that, you'll unspool yourself. Ask me how I know. So feed this in. It's a little bit more awkward than my bigger cabinet style, that's for sure. There we go. Once you got it fed in through there a little bit, go ahead, flip it, adjust your tension on the drive or on the roller or whatever. Snug it down, whatever. We got to plug this thing in, so conveniently I have some outlets right here, but with my razor blade so we can cut all these zip ties. Alright, so now that the wire is fed in there, go ahead, flip this thing on after you got it plugged in. There is a feed wire button on here, which is kind of cool because I haven't seen that yet. You can tell if it's pulling it in or not. Oh, yeah, there it is. Sweet. Alright, with that pulled through, go ahead, trim your wire back. So one thing I am noticing with this thing is the torch lead is extremely short. So we'll see how convenient that is or inconvenient it may be. So go ahead, get your ground clamp set up. And that just twists right into the front of the unit here. It's a nice locking style, so that's pretty straightforward. But the only other difference is they actually don't ship this machine with a regulator, which is kind of the killer part. I do have a few extras being that I am a weld shop, so let's dig through some parts and try and find a new regulator to feed into this thing.
What's wrong, Chris?
So I went to go hook up the gas line to realize this is apparently a gasless machine, which is ironic because the torch head has the gas lens on it, these holes, that's where the gas flows from. And on the display screen here, it shows gasless, but it doesn't let me change that. But you see MIG, TIG, and MMA, which is like, you know, stick welding and stuff. But you cannot TIG weld anything without having gas. Stick welding, you don't use gas, obviously the electrode has the coating on it. But MIG welding, I don't know. So I'm looking through the manual to see if maybe I'm just missing something, but I believe, oh, okay, yeah, so right here. So the machine is supposed to have a plug-in on the back of the machine. So they sent me, I don't know if it was intentional, but they sent me a unit that does not have the gas input. So this is strictly a flux core machine. So I guess we're gonna just take the solid core wire out of it. We're gonna run a really poor bead of a flux wire, and yeah, I guess we'll see what it does for flux, but that kind of sucks. I personally wouldn't ever buy a flux dedicated machine if you're not doing just straight like industrial welding, because anybody that's going to be learning as a hobbyist, like buying a Chicago Electric cheap Harbor Freight one or a unit like this, you're just not going to be happy learning on flux wire. So yeah, that's just a big killer. So let's swap the wire around really quick into some flux, and I got some scrap metal here, and we're just going to see if it'll even stick. We got Jeff over here helping film for the day also, so thank you, Jeff. And he wanted to lay the first welds because he has more flux experience than me. Not that it's much, but I also wanted to make note for the ground clamp. When you're doing flux welding, you want DC electrode negative, your electrode being your torch. So on flux welding, you run the ground clamp to the positive icon, and then when you're doing solid wire, if you buy a solid wire capable machine and you run solid wire, you'll hook up the ground to the actual negative, as it will run DC electrode positive.
It doesn't have enough spring for this 040.
Really?
No, it wants to unspool itself. I have this maxed.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Okay, so already not looking good on the machine.
This is maxed too. We got full tension on here, so let's see if that grips.
Well,
Is it gonna come in? It's moving. Is that no 402?
yeah, it should be. Yep, 040. All right.
And the spring loading. So I'll go. I have low hopes right now. Holy shit.
That was bright.
That was heat.
That was hot.
Hot as hell.
Well, it can burn the 040.
Okay, okay. It's burning alright. Turn it down a little more. I'd like more wire speed, but can only dream.
Yeah, you kind of get what you get.
Prefer much more wire speed.
But the settings, really the big complaint is this unit. I don't know if there are other units do it, but this unit in particular doesn't allow us to adjust the wire speed on its own. It just allows for amperage adjustment. So if you go in here and you click the dial indicator, so they have this mode called synergic and like auto, I think or after is what they call it, the A on there. There's an A and a V. So if you click the dial, it takes away, they call it the after, or you enter the after settings, and you can adjust the voltage range an extra 3 volts up and down. So I'm not entirely sure what that function is or why it's on there on the machine, but overall it auto sets the wire speed for the most part is what it appears. So I would say in a normal sense, 118, I would say that's amperage, but apparently that's the wire speed, and it auto sets the voltage with the wire speed, as you can see. So mildly convenient, a little bit confusing, so I think they should just relabel that, maybe just put W up there if that's actually wire speed and not amperage. The instruction manual is a little vague on that, but with some fine tuning, just kind of mess around with the dial a little bit, you can make some beats happen. So got some decent looking beads on there. So knowing out right now that this thing is just a flux welder and a stick welder, and it's not a gas MIG welder, makes a little bit more sense now. So make sure if you do buy one of these, understand, read the description thoroughly. The only part that kind of bums me out is this is labeled as, a MIG welder, not a flux core MIG welder, and then the listing description does say, gas and all that stuff, and everything in here talks about gas. So I'd imagine this is probably just a universal owner's manual that they ship with all their units. But I do want to say that they do have some pretty good tips in here for welding overall, because they do allow this machine to do scratch start TIG welding. So they have instructions on here on basics of TIG welding, a bunch of different tungsten electrode characteristics, which is great because if you don't know anything about that, you're going to spend some time on Google. But this does tell you whether it's pure, thoriated, serrated, laser tungsten, and it tells you about grind angles and how to grind it even. And then this is just variable tables, but that's all super sciencey, specific mumbo jumbo that nobody is really going to be messing with all that often or care to. So realistically, I don't know. I can't really knock on it too much, other than the lack of apparent wire speed control and the lack of a gas port, being that this is just a dedicated flux welder. But if you're looking for just a dedicated budget flux welder, I mean, honestly, this thing seems to be putting in the work just fine. So, I mean, we're definitely getting some heat out there. Only real complaint I do have with the machine, outside of it not being a MIG welder, is the electrode lengths and the cord lengths. It's a very compact, it's like a briefcase sized. This thing probably weighs 11 pounds if that, but the cables are extremely short. So if you're trying to set this thing up and weld, say, a gate in your backyard, you got to be able to be within basically 3 foot of your work area, which can be sometimes not so easy. But realistically, at the end of the day, it's a $200 machine. Honestly, I think it welds better than a Harbor Freight Chicago Electric unit. I haven't used any of their titanium stuff, but I don't know. I don't have too much to say, honestly. It's a pretty neutral review. I don't know if that's what you guys are really looking for. I don't want to say don't get it, but I don't want to say do get it. Just know what it is that you're getting. If you need a cheap, you know, flux welder to stick some gates together at your house, you know, by all means, use the discount, scoop it up. But if you're looking for a more dedicated MIG welder, I would look at the rest of their lineup and see if they have something that they can better offer you. And reach out to their customer service or their Instagram at BestArc Official, because they are pretty responsive on there, thankfully. So, yeah. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this quicker video. Again, you know, appreciate you, BestArc, for letting me try this thing out and get some seat time with it, some helmet time. But yeah, my only gripe is wire speed. Just make that adjustable. But anyways, guys, do what you love, figure out the rest. Thanks for spending some time out of your day here with us. We'll see you in the next one. Peace out.